Now while our meat is resting, I've taken the drippings from there and I brought them to a boil. Now I haven't added anything to that at all. Just bring them to a boil. Right in the same pan that you cook the roast in, whether it's a roaster or I cooked mine in my say that fast, my big black rock crock. Anyways, I'm bringing he to a boil now. And now I'm going to give it a taste. Turn it down once it comes to a boil. Now I'm going to give it a taste. Oh my dear, that's going to make some nice drop of gravy. Once you give it a taste, that's when you got to decide, do I need more salt to it? Maybe I want to add a little onion powder for some extra flavoring because my rub didn't turn out the way I thought it would be. Whatever you're having at that point, that's when you want to add that. That's very important. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of pepper. Mine didn't need any salt at all. And then now that that's come to a boil, now I'm going to add my water or my liquid. Now I'm going to use the end of my potato water. You want to use your, I saved him. You want to use the end of the potato water because that's where the starches are all settled at the bottom of that. It's not imperative, but it helps with the thickening process. So just add a little bit of liquid. You can't add too much liquid or then you're going to have no flavor in your gravy at all. So add a little bit of time, a little bit at a time, so you get your desired perfection. I can still afford to add a little liquid to heat. Now I'm going to add water because I totally forgot to put my starch aside and I had a little bit left in that pot, but that's all I'm getting. But that's okay because I had lots of flavor in my drippings. I made a rub on my roast with some butter and some olive oil, and I shoved some garlic up the fat, and I also threw a couple of cloves with my garlic press into the rub, and some butter and a little bit of cayenne pepper and some dry mustard powder, and I rubbed it all over, and I let it sit on the counter till it was like nice room temperature and the rub had sat. And then from there I put the roast in the oven at 400 degrees for 25 minutes, and then I turned them down to 350 and let it cook. This one only took an hour because it's a small roast. Most roasts take an hour and a half. That's all they take. Don't leave them in the oven forever at a low heat. They'll taste like shit. This is the way you want to do it. So we're going to get that going now. That will come to a second boil, and when that comes to a second boil, we'll add our thickening, and then our gravy will be ready. For thickening, I use Bisto. You can use whatever you want, my dear, but I use Bisto. I have for years. My mother used Bisto. My grandmother used Bisto, and I bet you my aunts use Bisto too. I'm going to shake it up. We're going to add that once it comes to a nice boil, and then we're going to have a beautiful, beautiful gravy. Now only add a little bit of thickening at a time and stir it till you get the desired thickness, because the more you keep boiling it, the thicker it's going to get. Once that's all done, you'll have a beautiful gravy. It's that easy. Sorry, I had to add cold water, and now I'm waiting for my pot to come back to a boil. It'll come back really fast though. These pots, these rock crocks hold the heat really, really well. But I had them turned right down and I forgot, so it'll come back to a boil fast here. Here we go. And I'm going to give it a taste again. Oh, that's my timer that tells me it's time to turn my Yorkshire pudding down a little bit. So it's at 400 now. I'm going to turn it down to 370. And I'm going to let that go for about 5 or 6 minutes down, and then I'll turn it down some more, right down to it gets down to 350, and then I'll finish it at 350. Now once you get your gravy made, you can let it sit in the pot, my dear, and let it just simmer there and stir it every now and then. If it gets too thick on you, try to add a little bit of broth or a little bit of potato water or something to it. Be careful if to add too much water if it gets too thick. So that's why it's important just to add a little bit at a time. That's all there is to making gravy. Taste it first, add what you need before you add all your liquid in your water. Bring it back to a boil. Here it comes. And then stir it. You can feel it, sure. You can feel it thickening. There you go. Add your liquid. Let that come back to a boil again. It won't take long. Hope you can see it well. Let's see if I can get that closer for you now. See that coming to a boil? It's a nice rolling boil is all you want. So my heat's down to about medium-low right now. Depending on your pot, if you got a good quality pot, the heat holds the heat well, so you can turn the heat down. You get less burning of food that way. You get better taste because the flavors go in nicely. Now that's beautiful consistency, that gravy right now. It's a beautiful consistency. I don't think I want it much thicker. And if I do want it a little thicker, I'm going to let that keep bubbling for about 2 or 3 more minutes. And if it's still not thick enough, then I'm going to add a little bit more. That's all I have to do. So we're going to pour that gravy now into a gravy boat. The Yorkshire pudding's just about to come out of the oven. The old man's going to slice the roast because he's been sitting there for a while now. Now I took he out 10 degrees under medium rare. Now the reason why you do that, because it sits on the counter for 30 minutes before you cut into it, and it keeps cooking for another 10 degrees. So remember that when you use your thermometer to check. I stuck the thermometer in the meat as you saw and left it magnet to my stove, and when it reached the temperature I want, I took it out. It was that easy. I didn't even have to open my oven, so it became more efficient that way too. Have a great evening and enjoy your roast beef and Yorkshire pudding night.